Let's go. Bam. We're extremely excited. Most of you guys follow us on Instagram, potentially YouTube. But listen, I don't know about you guys, man, but you know, when we talked about bringing this idea forward, about bringing a podcast to the community, right? The real, the raw, like Rafael likes to call it. You know, Vic, actually, you reached out to me and you reached out to Rafael, man, we should do a podcast. And I was like, heck yeah, but extremely excited. This is going to be our first episode, guys, of many more. Our pilot. So there may be some things that you might hear. We're going to get better. We're going to get better, right, guys? So talk to the people, brother.
1,000%.
What should they expect on the first
off,
one?
let me give credit where credit is due.
Yeah,
this wouldn't be happening if Vic hadn't like really just kind of wrangled us and and pushed for months.
Absolutely.
What are you guys doing? Let's put something great out there, right? The idea or the premise, just so you guys have a notion of what this is, it's us helping people get wealthy through real estate, through real estate investments, right?
I love it.
There's different strategies that we always talk about. There's different, you have the traditional things that become objections, that become problems, that become hurdles. A lot of times, I mean, it's the mindset. So we're going to throw all that stuff because between the three of us, I mean, we've done, I think at this point, thousands of deals combined.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And so the level of experience is there, the level of tenacity is there, the level of expertise between this table right here, it's big, right? So what we want to do is we want to put it out there for you guys.
Yep.
So it's a two-way street. It's going to take a communication, conversation back and forth. So if you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to get in on the chat, just drop it in there, right? So.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we're always getting messages from people asking us about the business, how to make money, how to get started, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, oh man, to come out with a long course that's going to take months to develop. I'm like, well, just do a podcast.
Yeah.
Just put it out there, give people information on how to make money with real estate, how to change our lives, because I think we've all changed our life with real estate. I mean, clearly. So that was the thought, and I'm excited.
Absolutely, man. And the one thing too is that we were talking off before we went on live here. We were talking a little bit about just talking about everything, right? Being real, because there's a lot of podcasts and there's a lot of content out there that doesn't really talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's something that I always pride on talking about. I have a call that I do every Tuesday called the Sales Hour, and so that's the one thing that I always hit on is let's talk about everything that's happening, not just we're the good things and the things that that people want to see, but everything that people don't want to see, right? The bad stuff that happens in business.
Because people just talk about the wins.
Exactly.
They don't talk about the negatives. Yeah. The month that you don't do deals, or it happens, right? So people don't talk about that, and so you want to show both sides, but ultimately at the end of the day, I think this is the best vehicle to make money.
Exactly.
If you're limited on education, right? Yeah, clearly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Let's just kind of set the premise, right, for the where the podcast is coming from. Obviously, it's a need. There's a need for contribution. 24/7. I know you guys are incredible givers. And that's the reason behind this whole thing. It's called REI BigShots, not necessarily because we're trying to edify ourselves and because we're big shots in real estate, but because anytime you jump into the space of real estate, it's highly competitive, right? You are taking a big shot on yourself. You're taking big shots every time you talk to a seller, every time you go in there and negotiate a property, every time you try to structure something, every time you go to a conference and get better and try to improve upon the stuff that you already know, you're taking big shots, right? So that's where this whole message is coming from. And at the end of the day, like it's that's what it's all about, right? We have the ability, the opportunity to move forward and grow, right? Not just financially, but from a personal standpoint, from a sense of contribution and give out to the world. And the incredible thing is that once that word is out there and we capture it, it becomes like this. It's just like people get infected with the need, right, to give and contribute and collaborate.
Exactly, but also identity is huge, right? So you kind of have to see yourself as a big shot. Like, I'm a big shot. I'm gonna make this happen. Identity is a big part of success. If you lack identity in yourself, which is belief, you're not gonna get to that level.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have to kind of think of yourself as a big shot.
I love that you brought that up because I talked to obviously hundreds and hundreds of people at the time, but even about sales, right? Specifically, because that's what I really always give out and give back on. And one of the premises that I always talk about is you have to begin with your belief system, right? Belief, with the F at the end, because if you don't have that, if you don't start with that premise, the belief system, then it's not going to work, bro, because this business is difficult. Let's be honest, right? It's not life or death. It's not like But it is, man, you make a couple 100,000 phone calls, like you're going to run into some situations where it's going to want to make you quit. And I've seen it. No, it's not easy at all. And so, you know, and the other thing too is, right, like as you grow and as you start to go in different levels, it demands even more from you. Because a lot of people, yes, when you start, it's hard. Yes, you're going to run into a lot of obstacles. But when you start moving up and you start doing bigger things, it demands even a lot more. We were just talking about a very horrendous situation. Obviously, we're not going to get too deep into that, but you know, it demands a lot from you, you know, and so your belief system, you have to continue working on that regardless. Yeah, exactly.
And also that a big part of it is like, what's your vision? Like, what's your reason for your why too? Like, why you're getting into it? Like, if you attach yourself too much to the business and not to your why, which is our families, our friends, etc., then it can really, it can mess you up, right? So, that's a huge part of it. Your why.
Well, that's the fuel behind the entire. That's when you wake up in the morning and you have that fire in your belly. Yeah. It's the why that's pulling you that way. It's not you trying to push this cart. There's something there that's pulling you to it, and that happens when you have a stronghold on the why. Like, why am I doing all these things? Why am I getting rejected by people 24/7? Why am I getting screamed at by strangers and I keep doing it every single day? Like, because there's a big why on the other side of that.
But you have to have the big picture. Like, this is my end goal. This is the end game. You got to have that in mind. I mean, clearly, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
So let's get right into it. I mean, this is the pilot. I mean, we're gonna start taking questions and helping the audience as the questions come in and everything. So but Max, let's start with you. What's your story?
Man, well, I mean, I think just like everyone, right? We all have the story of wanting to have something different in our lives and want to do better, right? And that's something that I've always chased. And a lot of times you don't have direction, that vehicle, what I call it. And that was me, right? I didn't know what vehicle I wanted to get into or what I want to do. I tried everything. Like I wanted to be a handyman at one point because that's my background, construction, right? I would come downtown here and buy like these warehouses, wholesale, like pallets and sell them, right? Like I was always trying to find something. And so, yeah, I mean, how I got into real estate was, a friend of mine used to flip a lot of houses back in 06 and 07, right before the market crash. And I was working construction at this time. This was around 13 and 14. Reached out to him and I said, hey, what do you think about maybe getting into, real estate? But always, and I think this happens to a lot of people, is they default to like fixing and flipping, right? You got to buy the house and fix it and stuff. That was my idea. I didn't know what wholesaling was. And finally, through my research, like, he's like, yeah, let's, if you want to start doing research and want to start getting in, I started like going on Craigslist and looking for properties, and I would see these ads that would say like, hey, close in 7 days, cash, as is, which I didn't know what wholesaling was. But eventually, when I found out, somebody actually directed me. It was a realtor that ended up selling my mother-in-law's property where she lives at now. She was in Florida. She was no longer here. And she's like, look, I'm not in the business anymore. I don't do, that business anymore. But here's a person that I want you to look up, which was, and then she gave me the name of Sean Terry, which you know very well, right, Rafael? Yeah. So then I Googled it and I downloaded. The OG. So I Googled it, went to his website, downloaded the PDF, and I read that thing 4 times, bro. Because
you clicked on the link, bro.
I clicked on the link, bro.
Is that what happened? Did it change your life?
It actually did, bro. That's one of the first links that changed my life, bro.
So Sean Terry also.
Sean Terry, yeah. Man. And you know what's crazy?
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out to
Sean. Shout out to Sean
Terry,
bro.
My start with Sean Terry's phone.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I was his acquisitions guy.
Nice.
So long story short,
shout out.
Yeah, shout out to Sean. Yeah. Long story short, man. I didn't believe what I was reading, and then I went, and the next day I went and reached out to my friend. I said, hey, I found this guy. Here's what he says you can do. He's talking about, contracting, no money. And he's like, that thing don't sound legit. Yeah, it's a scam. Don't sound legit. But then I started going to his meetups, which were local at his office. And really, one of the things, so 2 things.
That's where we met.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Yeah.
So 2 things that changed. For those of you who are watching, you have to realize, write this down. So number 1, when I found out I made a decision that I was going to sell out, and that was going to be the vehicle that was going to change, the thing that I was looking for. Yeah. And I made it my own. Yeah. And not only did I make it my own, I took action. I closed off all the noise, and dude, I just took action, and obviously look where we're at now, right? Yeah. Same with you guys. So,
yeah, totally. 100%.
There had to be a trigger. What was it? I mean, for you to want to change the life that you were living, and maybe it wasn't bad, but I mean, there was something there there was a desire for you to change, right? But there had to be a trigger that kind of set you off and said, okay, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, this is enough. I'm changing my my life, and I'm doing it this way, and I'm doing it today.
Yeah. I mean, financial, right? The like living paycheck to paycheck, like, you know. And I always felt like I was made to do more, right? And I believe that. You know what I'm saying? So for some of you out there, you might be thinking yourself like you are made to do more, and maybe it's not financial, maybe it's a purpose, right? And so that's the way I felt. Like financially, I didn't want to be living month to month, and I didn't want to do what I was doing for the rest of my life. Yeah. And I always felt, but like I was saying when I first started this dialogue, like I was always looking for that thing that was going to change my life and fulfill the purpose that I had.
You want to aspire to do more.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we all had that, right? Like there's a lot of times in my life I'm like, I'm wasting my time doing this. I shouldn't be doing this. I could do more.
Yeah. You know what was big for me? I didn't realize, I did not have the awareness that I could actually choose what kind of life I wanted to live.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That came in late, man. Yeah. Like I became a firefighter when I was 19. And I did a lot of things, but it's because they kind of happened in front of me. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that's a good opportunity, and I would go that way. But I never sat down and like critically thinking about what my life should look like, or what I wanted it to look like. And when I sat there and I put some thought into it, I mean, it's like, man, this whole other world just opened up. So.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is you guys know who Eric Thomas is, the hip hop preacher, right? Yeah. So he said something which aligns with what you're talking about, right? We didn't know that we could have that choice. And he said something very powerful that always stuck to me is information changes everything, right? Yeah. Which means that information opens up your eyes to this opportunity of choice. Yeah. But then you got to go out and take action. Yeah. But just hearing that thing, like where information changes everything, because it's true, right? You don't know what you don't know. And I think for most of us, including myself, so I can wrap my story up, that's what I was looking for. I didn't have that, but I made the choice that I was going to make this the vehicle that was going to change and give me purpose. Yeah.
For sure.
100%.
So let's get into before we switch to like the next novela.
The next novela. También hablamos español aquí.
No. All right. So give us some details on how it went, right? Because right now we see you at a stage in your life, and it's like, oh, cool, like that guy's got it made. Yeah. He knows his stuff. He knows what it is. But I know your background, dude. Yeah. You were tenacious, man. I remember when we first met in those meetups back in 2015. I mean, you were there. You were comping. You were reaching. You were putting yourself on the line when you still had a full-time 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
And you were working through the hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
How did you stick with that tenacity, like through the process?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Because I think a lot of times that gets overlooked, right? Because it's so easy to quit and turn away and do something else. Yeah. And so, I mean, my first 4 contracts were canceled. Right, I got my first one under contract, and then my second one. By your second one and third one, you're like, dang, is this like, should I be even doing this, right?
Totally.
Do I suck?
I mean, is this even realistic for me?
That can be disheartening.
Yeah, it is, right? Very disheartening, and so discouragement started to set in. And one of the things that proximity is very powerful. Yeah. So I had some really, really good people around me. A shout out to my wife, right? Encouraging. But my father-in-law was very encouraging as well to me, because he saw and I would always show him, and I was so excited and talk to him about it and stuff. And he saw it to the point where I don't know if this is for me anymore. And he kind of shook me up a little bit, right? Good. And so clicked me back, with the mindset. And sure enough, the 5th contract was the one that worked. So, and not only that, I made a decision to really not.
How big was that contract?
$11,500.
$11K. Yeah, so you went from no results to $11K.
To $11K, yeah, in one hit.
Proof of concept.
Exactly, man. I was so excited, and I was such my risk tolerance was so high that I quit my job, bro, and I went full time.
Really? Right away.
Right away.
Wow. He went and bought a Rolex.
Yeah, bro. I didn't care. Yeah, okay. Bought a Rolex and a Lambo, But proximity is so powerful, where you have to make sure, even family members. So I tell everyone, how did you make that work? I went through a period of about, I would say, 6 months. Dude, I wasn't going to any parties. I wasn't hanging out. And sometimes people see that as a difficult thing to do, but you got to understand, they're always going to be there. The parties, the opportunities to hang out, those things are going to be there. I mean, I still love my family, but I was determined to really get this thing to work, and I was sacrificing. And obviously I had a good mentor in Sean, which talked about a lot of those things, right? That was one of the things that I do remember. His events, there were really there was a lot of practical things when it came to mindset and belief system and how to change and how to position yourself. But yeah, man, I think proximity, making sure that you have, you know, the positive people around you, getting away from the negativity, because it's like, I used to joke this, like, I can't go to my family members and tell them, hey, we just did a $165,000 assignment fee. They would never comprehend that, right? Like, they wouldn't understand that. So I didn't want anyone to kill my dream. And I had the wherewithal to understand that early in my career. Yeah.
Well, now there's guys that do, I've heard of $7 million assignments.
That's crazy. Who's doing?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, that's skyscrapers.
Yeah.
I heard about a guy here in town. I think it was a $3 million assignment on a piece of land in Paradise Valley.
It's crazy, right? How the structure works. The structure works. I mean, the deal, the nature of the deal is going to be different, right? But the structure,
absolutely.
It's all frameworks.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's the nuts and bolts are like somebody already went through it. There's means of understanding and learning all these things, right? The tenacity and the mindset, that's going to be, you know, up to you guys. Like it's there's only so much that, you know, training and you know, and seminars and meetups and all that. There's only so much you can do. I hate seeing people in the same circuit. 2, 3 years, 4 years, and I'm gonna start, you know, calling next week. I'm gonna start, you know, they understand it. They could be professors, right? In the theoretical sense of it.
I call those professional students.
And
Exactly.
But it's almost, sometimes we get a fix, you know, psychologically. There's gonna be this fix,
absolutely,
that we get from feeling busy, right? We're feeling like we're doing something, but at the end of the day, the needle is not moving. So
no, so you know, and what's interesting about that is that, you know, something that I learned, you know, through training and obviously going out and taking action. It's like, the reason why, the way I see it, and maybe you have another point of view on this, the way I see that is that a lot of people want all the information to think that that's how they're going to get better, right? To perfect whatever it is that they want to do.
Creative avoidance.
Yeah. But the problem is, like, if you're not making mistakes, right? And you guys see this, I post this a lot. Like, my failures got me here, right? 100%. If you're not making mistakes, how do you know where to improve? Where to improve, right? It's the same. It's the same thing. Like, they want the information and don't take actions. Like myself, imagine, you know, I went out and took action, bro. 4 contracts, right? Canceled. Like,
totally.
Like, you know, and like, it was very disheartening. But how did I get that 5th one? Because I knew what I needed to improve. Reaching out to guys like Rafael, reaching out to Brandon. Shout out to Brandon, would help me out a lot as well. So then that 5th one worked, and it was like, okay, this makes sense.
But it's interesting when you touched upon it. You didn't believe, like, you read the book, I guess, and you didn't really believe.
No, I didn't.
It was the same with me. Funny story. I read No Money Down.
Robert Allen.
That was like, what, 20-some years ago?
It's crazy. He's in one of my masterminds.
And really, that's nuts.
So cool.
And
I saw him last weekend.
Yeah, and it's nuts. I read that book. I did not believe it, so I didn't take action on it. And it's interesting. You know, Andrew Tate. You know, he's very controversial, right? But he says, like, people don't make money because of lack of intelligence. It's because they lack, like, they're arrogant. They're arrogant or they're lazy, right? And it's true. It's like, I was arrogant. I'm like, no, that can't be true. But finally, when I realized, you know, this is true, this is real, it's possible, that's when everything changes.
Absolutely.
100%.
Vic, what about you? What's your story?
Yeah, Vic.
So my story is,
slide the microphone a little more, bro.
It's not gonna be it's not gonna be like this every episode.
No.
This is just like the intro, right?
Yeah.
We want to know. So you guys know who's on the other side of that.
We want to know Vic's story of being a jefe.
And guys, we're rough around the edges. Like, we're not super polished. I mean, there may be a slip here with a bad word every now and then. So just, I mean, hold on for the ride.
Yeah, with me, my family, I had two mentors. One was George Sandoval. One was Jorge Aguilar. They were both in the food business.
Yep.
So I was in the food business, you know, for years. I sold cheesecakes, which I enjoyed, but I always thought I could do more. Then I got into the produce business with my cousin. But prior to that, when I was 25, I started working with a real estate investor, and I liked it. But I stopped doing that because my cousin was really successful. I'm like, well, let me go work with him because he's rich. Mm-hmm. Then I'll be rich, right? So
proximity.
Proximity. It didn't turn out that way, but I learned a ton. And honestly, that's a big reason why I've been successful in real estate, because I took a lot of those strategies and tactics and applied them to real estate. But same story. I heard about Jalen White. I tell this story many times on Ty Lopez's podcast.
Yep.
And he was young, 18 years old, making $100,000 a month. I'm like, no way. Like, that's nuts. But I'm like, okay, he's a smart guy. He's a hustler. Now he's into other businesses.
Yep.
He's doing great, right?
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, he knows something that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like, but he's only 18. So like, where did he learn it from?
Right.
So I did some research, and it was from Sean Terry.
There you go.
And so actually, what I did, I got Sean's course, and I studied it for 3 months straight.
Oh, we should call him for an affiliate.
I know we should.
Right? Yeah, totally. By the way, his company. It's Flip to Freedom.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Flip to Freedom.
Dude, I remember the podcast. Like,
great podcast.
Yeah, great podcast. Yeah.
So anyway, so I ordered his course and I studied it for 3 months because the way I am, I really want to know the business. I want to understand it.
Right.
And even my wife was like, aren't you gonna just start? I'm like, no, I know the way I am. If I have any doubts, I'm gonna hesitate.
Yeah.
So I wanted to move forward, but I wanted to move forward with knowledge, and so I studied for 3 months straight. And then I started talking to Max at that time.
Yeah.
Like we were going to partner up with Max and Steve back in the day.
Yep.
We were all talking
it's
about
like 18, right? 2018 or something like that?
2018, but I decided, no, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yep.
And I think from the time I started calling, I got my first deal in 10 days. I partnered up with Carlos and Sal. It was a $22,000 deal. We split it, and the rest was history. That's kind of how it started.
That's cool, man.
You know?
Yeah.
Cool story.
Yep.
And like one thing that I want to make a point of too, this is 2018.
Yeah.
2018. Yeah. It's not like it's 20 years ago. It's like but the shift in your life, I mean, it's a totally different space that you're living in now.
Yeah, because I came from a corporate. It was a family business, but it was very corporate, right?
Yeah.
But so luckily I can see like the owners were my cousins, and because they owned the company, they were very successful. They had a lot of money. They had great lives. And I was still, it was family, but I was still an employee. And they paid me well, but I was still an employee. And I'm like, I want to live that lifestyle. Like, how can I do that? And the reality is you're not going to live that lifestyle being an employee.
Right.
I mean, if you're getting really high commissions, that's different. Like there's those positions exist, right?
Yep.
But typically as an employee.
Those are the entrepreneurs.
Correct.
Yeah.
But typically, as an employee, you're going to be limited in your income. Yeah. And so I'm like, I want more. I just wanted more. That was it.
Oh, got it.
And I knew I could achieve more.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that, Vic, is because it sounds like you had a really good setup.
Yeah.
Maybe it felt like a paycheck to you, but you were pretty much working in something that might have been paying you really well. But what was that you what made you click, like Rafael was asking me, that you wanted more? Because I remember that position you were in. I visited you in the we were in the same building, same office, and I'm like, man, this is a good gig. He's got here.
I had my own office. You know, the CEO was my cousin.
Yeah.
He had 2,000 plus employees. So I had job security. I'm never going to fire me. And honestly, like I started doing deals on the side, and I did that for 2 years.
I remember,
so I was earning from honestly, I was handling a lot of logistics too. So that's what drove me crazy. I'd be getting calls from 3 a.m. till like midnight. It drove me crazy. But really, I worked from like 7 to 4 o'clock. So I'd work at my job and then go home and call for 3 hours and then work at the weekends. And I built it slowly but surely. Yeah. And I would just determine, and it's proximity.
Yep.
I met a lot of guys here in town, actually.
Yeah.
That were making really good money, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not better than them, but they're not better than me. So if they can do it, I can do it. And that's kind of like the premise of this podcast, like for you guys to see, like 3 guys, at various ages and journeys, right? But we were able to change our lives through real estate.
Absolutely.
And it's really proximity.
Yeah,
that's what 100%. It comes down to. And I think if I wasn't in Phoenix, maybe I wouldn't have achieved the same level of success because there's so many guys here in town.
Yeah, it's Guru Central.
Yeah, you got Sean Terry here. You got Jamil. You got Pace Morby. Like so many guys here that you get to know them on a personal level. Yeah, and you see them like, well, he's a human being just like I am. And I think that's a big shift. Proximity is huge.
I 100% agree with that because, when we had the whole, there was a few years there when we were all together, right? You were in the office with Batch and all that stuff. And we would have people come into our workshop. This is when we were doing some workshops. And they were so jealous of what was going on here in Phoenix, right? Because they didn't see it. There was other markets.
Why do you guys collaborate with your competition?
Exactly. Yeah. Why do you guys work? Why do you guys work together? Why do you do this? Like people would ask that. I can't even get someone to go have coffee with me. Yeah. So I understand where you're coming from on that part. It would have been different for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm gonna do another shout out. This one is for Brandon Simmons.
Let's go.
So Brandon.
Shout out Brandon.
So Brandon calls me up one day and he goes, "Hey buddy. if you know Brandon, you know what I'm talking about.
That's him.
Hey, buddy. So he calls me up. He goes, I have this idea. Would you be interested in joining I want to put together a mastermind.
Yep.
I was like, oh, okay, cool. A mastermind. I was like, yeah, it's just, a bunch of guys get together and then just kind of, collaborate, see what works. So he went, read the Go Giver book, and then he created the Go Giver Mastermind here in town. Yeah. He's the guy that came up with the idea. Like right. Nobody was doing it.
No.
Right. So he got a bunch of wholesalers. All the competition. We used to see the cards of everybody. Out. And he got us all in a room. And after that first meeting, we were all sharing marketing strategies. We were all like, oh, I have this deal. Can you sell it? Like, oh, yeah, I'll find a buyer for you. and this really cool thing happened, right? But the catalyst was really Brandon. An idea is only crazy if it doesn't work.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
His idea worked.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Yeah, and I think from there, actually, that's where Pace and Jamil started, connecting, and then that happened. Yeah. That's where I met Brent, and we've collaborated a ton since then. So a lot of the relationships that really just kind of made the Phoenix what it is now happen, in from that table. So it's pretty interesting.
I want to say something to add to that, because before you share a story, I know you're going to jump into yours, is how important is reputation in relationships, right? I posted the other day this on my stories, and I posted on Facebook too. It's like your reputation walks in before you walk into any room. Like, even though this looks really big and it looks like it's a big industry, but honestly it's not,
it's not,
it's not at all. Like you know who's who, and that's why it's really important that the proximity of the relationships and to always maintain a good solid reputation. And that's why a lot of us have been able to have that longevity, right? How many people have we seen come and go in just these last 2 years, right? When the big profits were high and people were like, but anyways, that's another story for another day.
Exactly. But there's guys out there that they'll burn you just to make
they'll burn you
just
to make 5,000. Do good business. So Rafael, let's look at you, brother. So what was your story, bro? What got you started and where you're at now?
Well, I was born in 1983 on a cloudy evening. No,
in a manger?
Yeah. Yes, in this rancho. No,
Rancho Las Cavas.
Rancho Las Cavas. So I started. I got into real estate. Actually, was my second entrepreneurship. Kind of like adventure, right?
Yep.
When I was 19, I became a firefighter in Yuma, and then after that, I left the fire department and launched a medical transportation business. So I had that for a couple of years. That's where I got my my teeth filed per se in the business aspect. So a lot of those those principles and stuff that I learned through that process, I came in. And it was like I already had the tenacity because I gotten punched in the face a bunch of times before through that first business. Yeah. So when I got into real estate, I was like, man, I'm putting in all this effort, but the upside is so much. Like it's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
So it just kind of opened up my eyes. I did my first flip 2009. I knew how to swing a hammer because I used to work construction when I was in high school and college. And I bought this terrible property in a terrible area for a terrible price. I didn't leverage. I paid cash for it. I had some cash that I put together through my other business. It took me like 6 months to flip it, and I made $2,000. So I wasn't talking to anybody. You're balling,
huh?
Yeah, I made $2,000. I was like, all right. I was like, how can people survive with real estate?
Did you start your coaching program after that?
Yeah.
Did you start a course after that?
Yeah, I started. I went and started a coaching program. That's how the first mastermind came about. That's not true. But
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So I did that, and then I came at my second flip was a little better and whatnot. It wasn't until like the third deal, I think, that I saw a settlement on the settlement statement.
So it was all flips.
Yeah, there was a couple flips.
Yep.
I on the settlement statement, which is the last document that you get where it breaks down all the numbers, I saw an assignment fee. Like, what is that assignment fee? $18K, right? So I called the guy that I got the property from. I was like, dude, there's $18K here for an assignment fee. Like, I made $7,000 because I made like $7,000 on that second deal.
Right.
I was like, yeah, that's what he paid me for the property. I was like, silence, right? What?
Pin drop.
Yeah, it's the assignment fee. And I sort of got it, didn't get upset. I didn't know nothing. I was like, how do I do that, bro?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, teach me your ways.
Yeah.
And if anyone wondering, like an assignment contract is when you have a property under contract,
yep,
you assign it to a different person.
Yep.
And you get a fee for that. So a lot of people don't. I've talked to agents that
yeah,
don't know what
assignment is. Yeah.
Like they have no clue, and they've been agents for 15 years.
Yep.
So
right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
You're selling your vested interest in that negotiation, right? Yeah. So he sold me. He negotiated the contract with the seller.
Yep.
And then sold me the contract. So I paid $18,000 for that contract. And I mean I overspent on the rehab. So a lot of the numbers were right on that deal. Just I overspent on the rehab. So anyways, I go in there and then he tells me to start listening to he gave me the Todd Toback podcast.
Oh yeah.
So I listened to Todd Toback, and on one of the episodes, episode 3 or 4, something like that, I heard Sean Terry. All right.
Okay.
And it's like, and then he mentioned that he was in Maricopa. I was like, I'm in Maricopa.
Yeah.
So I signed up for his email list, and I mean I started just with what he like taught on the podcast.
Yep.
I closed 3 wholesale deals.
Yeah.
Before even meeting him.
Yep.
So I did
no course.
no
Actually,
no
that's funny
from
you
the
say
podcast.
that. That's funny you say that because that's why I said his podcast was really good because I didn't buy his course till a little bit later because it was all his podcast. So just from the podcast, I was able to go out there.
Bro,
and take
did you
action.
ask for a discount code?
No, I didn't.
Good.
Yeah.
No. So I mean, this was just like pure value. Right, like on the podcast.
Yeah, it was a good podcast.
Yeah,
it was.
So I started, anyways, I rolled out with that. I did a couple of wholesale deals, and I was on his list at that time. I started prepping to sell my transportation business. Yeah. So I ended up selling the business, and I was just sitting there trying to figure out my next move. But I wanted to get into real estate. So my son asks me, how do people get money? Like one day, like, do they just go to the bank and get money? I was like, no, you gotta get a job. He's like, how do you get a job? And it's crazy how like the dots kind of connect, right? But he had sent out an email in that morning, Sean, looking for an acquisitions guy. Like if you're interested in acquisitions, you need to be in Maricopa County. I was like, I'm sitting on my butt. And I've been an entrepreneur at that point for 8 years.
Wow.
Own my own business. I started the transportation business by myself as a solo dude.
Yep.
When I sold it, I had a couple dozen vehicles. About in between everything combined, I mean, close to 40 plus teams. So it grew the business. So I was used to being El Jefe. And I'm sitting there, I was like, man, I mean, I gotta set my ego aside. Like that shit's not good. If I'm gonna get into this, and I have the opportunity to learn from the tip of the spear, all over it. So I brought my kid into the room, and I told him, this is how you apply for a job. So I sat there. I had swim shorts because we were back in the pool, and then I had a real nice shirt at the top. So waist up, right? And I'm recording, and I did a 5-minute video on it's just like a job application.
Yep.
Sent that in. Nothing happens. And I was like, all right, cool. I went out and got my real estate license. And a few months later, I get a call. And I keep at this point, when you find somebody who's legit and whatever, you tell everybody, follow that guy. He knows his stuff. Follow that guy. So I kept talking to a bunch of friends, and I get a call. And hey, this is Rafael, like the Sean Terry voice. And I swear to God, I thought it was just one of my friends fucking with me. And it was like, no. So anyways, I ended up working acquisitions with him, and that just opened up a whole new, I got to a point where I was going face-to-face appointments, about 25 appointments a week.
Damn. Okay.
Face-to-face, not virtual closing or anything. So doing that for 3 years, just back to back, and I was locking up the deals. Brandon Simmons was selling the deals. I mean, it was just like a really, really good team at that point, man.
That's awesome.
And you learned from the OG.
Yeah,
absolutely. So we would have the Monday meeting. So and my background is operations, is systems and processes, right? So scorecards, KPIs, and all that stuff. Like we got to dial in a lot of that stuff. So I got to play with his company.
Yep.
Just the learning curve got cut, man, by 10 years.
Oh, I bet.
At least. And then I was making really good money as acquisition. So anyways, that led, after a while, you mentioned, we were talking about the trigger, right?
Yeah.
What makes you want to change?
Right.
I was sitting in a good spot, and at that point, Sean put me on stage, right? So now I was doing presentations, the closing, teaching people how to close from stage, and flip to Extreme Freedom events, and that to me just opened up a whole new world.
Yeah.
Those are good events too.
Oh yeah,
they're always good.
So I was seeing a lot of different angles. When my thing was, I just want to lock up a contract, right? But if you don't take that step and you don't put yourself out there, you're never gonna see the next door, right? Or the next opportunity.
It's a leap of faith.
Yeah, it is. It's a leap of faith. We don't know what we don't know, like you said. Exactly. So yeah, I mean, you know, after a while, I got my intention, and when I sat down with him, I told him, you know, I can do a year. I'll guarantee you a year. Yeah. I ended up staying 3 years because the growth was there. Everything was just, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
Yeah, of course.
So at one point, you know, it got to like I had to go. You know,
But that was the foundation for everything you've done.
1,000%, man. All credit, you know, credit where credit is due. Like there was a lot of stuff that I learned there. And
I don't want to move on to from that point really quick because, you know, what's crazy about it is most people don't put their ego down and do something like that. And think about that, right? Like you were an entrepreneur, you had your business, like you had some really good solid foundation, you know, besides being the firefighter and then having your business, your ambulance, or I think it was, right, your ambulance business. So think about that, right? Listen, if you're out there and you're really struggling, there's nothing wrong with really going and working with someone, right? And that's the thing that we always used to tell people that work with us when we were building teams in my old partnership. Like, we knew most people weren't going to be there more than 12 months potentially. But what I would tell them is like, look, I understand why you're here, but give yourself 12 months to at least learn everything, because you're going to be in the front lines. Like, that's only one very small like piece of this whole puzzle. And if you leave like in 90 days, you might do some things, but you're gonna be struggling. And it's crazy because most people don't put their ego aside and say, you know what, I'm gonna stop trying to do this for my own because I'm having difficulties. Let me partner up with someone. Let me go work for someone for a little while, and look what it does. I mean, man, you're big time now. So.
No, that's so true. It's interesting you mentioned that because, like, you know, as you know, my cousin was super successful, 2,000 plus employees, and one time, and I say this often, but it's a really critical point. I'm like, how did you do it? Like, we're having steaks at Chula Steakhouse here in Chandler. I go, how did you do it? How did you get to this level? And I'm waiting for like the secret sauce, right? He's like, you know what? I was humble. I was like, what? He goes, I was humble. He goes, I didn't know everything. There's a lot that I didn't know. So I sought out everyone in my industry that was doing well, better than me, and not as well, but they were doing well. And I picked their brain. I asked them for advice. And then I took everything I learned from all those people and I just combined it and I made it my own. And then he became like the biggest guy. Like, literally now they're like one of the biggest organic banana farmers in the world. They're huge. And so I'm like, that's what I'm going to do.
Nice.
So that's what I did. So I got Sean's course. And then my first deal, I reached out to Carlos Reyes. I'm like, Carlos, hey, man, you know, I hit him up on IG. He's like, come in my office. I went to his office. I got my first deal. And he's like, yeah, that's a deal. Lock it up. So, like, I was open to working with people. And then I started working with Keegley for my dispo. Because I'm like, well, I don't know anything about dispo. Like, who's the dispo king in town? So I went to Jamil. And so I was humble enough to seek people out. And I think that's a critical part. You got to put your ego aside.
Absolutely. Leave your ego at the door and be coachable.
Yeah, absolutely. And that one thing that happens, right? A lot of times, I think the foresight that we sometimes have at the beginning does not represent the foresight you're going to have in 6 months. A simple conversation with somebody, with a stranger, can literally change the course of your life because they plant the seed, a seed of just possibility in your head. Once that's there, if it really gets a hold of you, it can grow into something amazing, right? And then you just don't know where we're taking action, taking that next step, and saying, you know what? I mean, this is my time. School's out, and really going for it is going to put you. And dude, it just saddens me, right? That there's so much potential out there. In you know, people, smart people, just like that indecisiveness is killing dreams every single day.
Yeah, you know, Miles Monroe was somebody that I used to listen to a lot. I haven't lately, but he actually passed away in a plane crash or something happened. So, but he made the statement where he said that if you want to find like all that where where most of the jewels are buried, where most of the potential, and he goes, if you want to find all the gold, he goes, it's in the cemetery, because of what you just said. People who died with that potential and never really proceeded to go forward with it and take action on it. You know, the next musician, the next whatever, right? Whatever it is in the cemetery.
It starts with self-belief. Like if you don't have the belief in yourself to figure it out or to achieve a certain level of success, you're not going to take the actions, and you're not going to get there. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
If you don't have the perspective, borrow it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, simple as that. I mean, okay, like what you did was great. Like, these people are doing something that I don't know. I'm gonna go, get proximity.
I'm gonna ask.
I was talking to Corey Geary yesterday. The guy moved to Puerto Rico, and and he's he was talking about he's doing a totally different vertical now. He's like, I moved there because that's where all the crypto guys are.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's proximity. Like
if
I want real estate people, I'm gonna be here. I'm gonna hang out in Phoenix. Yeah, I'll stay in Phoenix.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wanted crypto people. Like that's where they're at. You pick up a phone and then you meet. Like proximity is important. Getting out there is important. Having conversations with people is important. Asking questions is important. Yeah. Like just ask questions and ask new questions. Right. Yeah. It's there's no such thing as a stupid question unless it's the same question over and over again.
Exactly. Well, I'll add something to that. There actually is no stupid question. There's only stupid people because they don't ask the question. Yeah. And I get this question asked a lot to me, like, what would you do? What if you started over again? Like, what would you do? And then one of my mistakes was just exactly what we're talking about right now. Is I tried, even though I was going to the meetups, even though I was going to the events with Sean Terry, and I would reach out to you every now and then. But a lot of it, bro, was through brute. Like I stayed to myself and put like I thought that if I did the work, and that kind of grained in me, right, the work ethic, and I've always been a believer that if I just work it out, like it's gonna work out. But it wasn't true, bro. It wasn't until, like I said, I had to make the adjustments, and I needed to reach out to more people and ask those questions. And then from there, it just snowballed, right? Went into, I took 5 years in the Sandler training, got coaching there, and like. So it's all based around being curious and reaching out to those that know more than you. Yeah.
Well, totally. It's funny. There's a couple guys, Carlos Reyes, Stratton, a bunch of other guys. They're like, Victor, we used to see you at all the events. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, because what my cousin taught me, and he was so successful at the time. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to seek out everyone. I'm going to go to every event. I'm going to read as much as I can. I'm going to study because I want to master the business. And it really helped. I mean, it made a huge difference in my business.
That's and I mean, that's really important. That's really cool too. I mean, you've been in it for a while. You've seen the highs. You've seen the lows. You have a lot of experience at this point, right? Yet you still go to the events. Yeah. You still show up. Okay, there's going to be there's going to be a seminar. There's going to be something. There's always gold, man, that's taken away. When I get the opportunity to go speak somewhere, I like it because I do my thing, right? But I'm learning so much also from the other speakers, from the other people in the room. It's
like our mastermind we just started. Like 2 months ago. Yeah. I mean, every time we have it, you learn something.
Exactly.
Like, oh shoot, that's a good tip. Oh, I got to write that down. Like, I already got a bunch of notes in my phone from that mastermind. Yeah. So and we just started 3 months ago.
3 months ago. Yeah.
That's another example, man. Like that group is solid.
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 Yeah.
There's some sharks.
So yeah, I mean, with that being said, this is an intro to what's coming.
Absolutely.
It's a base of our stories, what we've been through. It's humble beginnings and really getting into it through the grind, right? Tenacity is one of the things that we have the choice to become tenacious about the dream and the life that we want to create, right? Be aware of that. Understand that you have the opportunity to craft the life. Like you don't be a victim of society. Don't be a victim of your situation. Or where I grew up in a mobile home. It's like there's always the opportunity if you pay attention to it. If you get work with through grit, for example, and commit to it and give things time to work.
Exactly.
So I mean, future episodes we're gonna be doing this on a regular basis. And we're gonna be answering questions. I mean, we're gonna get really objective. We're gonna do deal breakdowns. We're gonna be doing Q&A. So we're going to talk a lot about wholesale, about fix and flip. We're going to talk about creative financing,
sales, all that.
Sales, the real stuff that's happening right out there. We have one of the best closers in the group. I don't want to say who it is because then it gets a big head. But yeah. So with that being said, I mean it's important, right? It's a two-way street. Collaborate. Let's have that conversation. Drop questions in. Come in with your question next week if you're catching this tonight. So I'm excited, man. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, it's about changing your life. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like. I've been able to take my entire family to Cancun and our entire family to Italy, which is my dream. Went to Europe, Switzerland. Like it really has given us a great life. Yep. But started with my humility and being open to learning from other people that knew more than me.
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something out there too. Like it's really cool when you have like, I think I want to take a trip next week. Yeah. But it's not like a. It's not, it's a trip. Right. So I don't like it sounds like I'm bragging, maybe a little bit, but it's like the opportunity to create that type of experience, right? Not just for ourselves, but for the people that we care about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's, I mean, I don't know. To me, it's owning your options is one of the biggest things that drive me.
And you don't want to have money in the bank either. Like, you want to create memories for your family. Yeah. So that's what it comes down to. It's your quality of life. Yeah. Right. But if you're not willing to change the quality of your mind, the quality of your life is going to change.
I love that. That's awesome. With that being said, so we're going to be going live every Friday, 4 p.m. Arizona time, right? So listen, next Friday, we're going to have a great episode. We're going to dive deep into other topics. Today was mostly, like Rafael said, you know, it's our pilot episode where we want to make the introduction. But make sure that you lock in your time, put it in your calendars, share this with someone. Look, we're gonna give out so much value on this show, because I know Rafael doesn't hold nothing back, Vic doesn't hold nothing back, and if you follow me, I definitely don't hold anything back. So all we ask is that we don't make you jump through hoops, loops, or sign up to any links, right? Just share this with someone. That's the cost, right? Share the stream with somebody. Lock it in your calendars that we're gonna be going live every single Friday at 4 p.m. So before you hit the bars or whatever you got to do, parties,
pregame,
because you know, we know all our times are valued, but listen. We do this because we understand that something like this helped each and one of us, right?
1,000%.
Well, I mean, like there's been like Sean Terry was instrumental in our success, right? And other guys like the All In guys. Like, there's so many guys out there. So this is kind of our way of paying it forward.
Yeah. I mean, I remember one of the episodes where Sean talks about he was in his car with no AC on because he didn't want the air blowing into the phone or wherever he was recording. Now, you know, again, that's the thing. This is the beautiful thing about collaborating, and you know, you got some guys that have done some big things here. So so bring your questions. Don't hesitate to bring your questions and share this. And you know, and if you do have questions to follow up on from this episode, leave them in the comment section. Your YouTube channel is
Rafael Cortez, CEO.
Yep. So, and mine is just Max Jimenez, or Real Max Jimenez. That's my YouTube channel. And then they can reach you, Vic, at Instagram at where?
On Vic.Heredia, Heredia.
Let's go. Any last words before we sign off?
Stay focused. You got this. Let's go.
That's it.
I love it. All right, everyone. We'll see you next Friday, 4 p.m. Arizona time. Don't miss out. REI BigShots, and we're out.
Bam.